Unlock the path to healing with Exposed podcast. Join us as therapists from around the world break mental health taboos, share powerful stories, and provide insights that transform lives. Tune in, educate, and thrive.
We're blinded by our own light. And when we're blinded, everything appears to be complete darkness. Everything appears to feel and look black and dark. And so, but everybody that's watching you, everybody on the outside is inspired by you and motivated by you, and they see you shining. So take those words when people tell you those things, and take them and let them be the hug that they're meant to be. And if you're not one that hears those words and you're the one that's always giving them, know that that is your own medicine, and you're asking yourself to accept that from your own self, that you are that light, that you are destined for greatness, and that you're living that greatness out in every moment.
There is so much wisdom. Hello and welcome to Expose the podcast. I'm so excited to introduce you and welcome JenLyn UNBN, a very dynamic and creative individual force in coaching and leadership. As the founder of Uniqua New Beauty Norm and the L.A.B.E.L Academy, JenLyn empowers individuals to break some limiting them boundaries and embrace their unique identities. Her very unique and innovative approach, multidimensional niche integration, redefines professional integration. JenLyn's passion to transform, change lives, to create a life of iconic, avant-garde branding systems. I will put the links for you all. You can have a look at that. It really looks amazing. She is also an international best-selling author, keynote speaker, and host of 2 influential podcasts, and as well the editor-chef in the magazine Chroma, and the creative, not only that, the creative director of Matchness Merch. Please help me to welcome, as we explore her journey and insights on leaderships and authenticity and transformative changes. Hello, JenLyn. You have done so much. Can you see how many things you have accomplished? How are you?
I'm so beautiful. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. And, it's always interesting. It's always a moment for me whenever that kind of introduction is taking place, and to hear it's being said out loud. It's always an interesting moment of realization. Sometimes we just are living day-to-day life, and so yeah, thank you so much for asking me that question. I love it, and I'm taking a moment right now just to kind of soak that in. You muted.
I was making the dance. I love how your mind works, how it's very reflective and insightful. We met through our common friend, Crystal Beha, another international bestseller author, your friend and also co-author of the same book,
Yes.
Beyond Boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely, we were. And I just love Crystal, and she's such an incredible human, and she led me to you, another incredible human. So I absolutely love, the one thread that we all have in common is, of course, being thrivers, that we absolutely are living our best lives, and we've been able to successfully alchemize and transmute our lives into purpose and service, and that's something that's incredibly powerful.
back then when we were thank you for sharing all of that. Could you share with our audience a little bit of your story? I know last time when we met, I really wanted to hear it, but I wasn't yet ready because I felt like let's do it with the right environment and attention. And so could you share a little bit the story behind Unique New Beauty Form and all what you're doing today with the L.A.B.E.L Academy and who you are right now?
So I have had 1,000 lifetimes in this one lifetime. And the Uniqua New Beauty Norm is something that, for me, it's creating a new beauty norm in the world. And that it's aesthetically, it's, you know, it really is from the outside in and the inside out, especially in the world of business and branding, of course. And L.A.B.E.L Academy is about legacy. It is about uniqueness. It's about liberation. It's about really becoming and being your own niche and your own unique identity. As the one thing in my life that's been the common thread is that identity, and continuously being put in places to re-choose my identity, right? That rock bottom place. And so now it's something that I embrace, and I embrace every single day. What got me here is a lot of tragedy, a lot of transitioning, of course. And in the book, Beyond Boundaries, the story that I share, the most pivotal story in my own life, there is my wife and EMS partner of 13 years at the time, because I was a paramedic firefighter for 15 years. And we were partners, and we were partners in life as well. And she had a mental health crisis, and she entered into a psychosis that began with a suicide attempt, and then they did not keep her for the mandated time that they were supposed to, and they released her into my care. And then she kidnapped me and took me hostage for 72 hours. And in that time period, there were multiple attempts at taking my life. And I was able to escape around the 72-hour mark. And she did not make it out of that crisis alive. And so that's been in fact, on August 6th, that will be exactly 13 years ago.
Well, that sounds like a Hollywood movie. Like this stuff is not real. It just wouldn't cross my mind. Things can happen like this, and so I mean, it is I don't know what to say right now. I just froze because I'm like, I've been in a situation where there was abuse, and I can only guess a little bit how you felt when there was like, am I going to die? Am I actually going to die? This is the person I love, but at the same time, I don't understand. It is a mental illness, but nobody's going to take responsibility right now.
Yeah.
And it felt
Yeah.
lonely. It had to feel terrifying, and but I'm so happy that you were able to escape. Oh my God. Wow. It really had impact on me right now when you shared all of that, because what you're doing today, and so many people of my audience, for my audience, I think it gives hope that absolutely there is no level of trauma which we can experience, which we cannot overcome. And So did you create, so creating what you're doing today, which I love watching on LinkedIn, I'm like, oh my God, I need to add some more colors to me too. It just reminds me about like some of my own needs of like vanity too, because we all have it, but there is a period when we just decide to embrace it. And
Yes.
and I'm being like, okay with, with stuff coming up on us. Mhm.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to ask you, how do you define beauty? How do you define vanity? And how women nowadays who see those, surgeries, Botox, whatever you call it, you name it, too big, too small, too curly, not curly enough, uh, all of
I
that. Mhm.
I find beauty as authenticity. And to me, even, it um exactly as we are at any given moment has to be something that we learn to wrap around and accepting and seeing as beautiful about ourselves and about each other. And so if that's getting Botox, if that's using and spending $10,000 on a facial once a week, if that's simply not doing any of those things and just uh going day to day with minimal quote unquote care for yourself. It's all about authenticity and acceptance and the courage to be that unapologetically. That's the ultimate beauty to me. And of course what happened absolutely gave me and gives me the ability to um, be audacious. Audacious is something that I fully embrace, and I think that we all have the opportunity to be audacious in our lives, and when we are authentic, we are audacious. And so whatever that it is that looks like, you were referring to my love affair with vanity, and the reason I talk about vanity in that sense is that I learned to fall in love with myself in a mirror, in the vanity. And it's something now that I walk my clients through a lot, and it's mirror work essentially, if it's something that but when you're learning to fall in love with yourself, it happens from the outside in a lot of times, because we have to start with that outside layer. uh, when we start to do deep work like that, is the transformation is from the inside out, but the work is from the outside in. And so it's something that I embrace to this very day. And my preparation for the day does have a lot to do aesthetically. And I am a makeup artist, and I'm an artist, and I strive to be walking, talking, breathing art every single day. And that's sacred to me. That is sacred time to me. It's a part of my sacred care and love affair with myself.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that, sharing all of those points, and your precious thoughts. Um, I'm curious about your healing. Um, Looking back, what helped you the most to create the image, the self-image you have, the self-worth you have? Um,
Having the courage to do it my way. And so naturally, when everything transpired the way that it did, there were things like funeral preparations, um, contacting family, is something that's very hard to accept on the outside. There were lots of accusations, right? Because it couldn't possibly have happened that way. Different things along the way, and in that way. And society teaches us that we should grieve in a certain way, and that way is clean and quiet and proper. And it's not. It's messy. It's loud. It's 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 guttural. It's um it's screaming, it's crying, it's feeling angry, it's feeling shame and guilt, and then letting the cycle repeat itself over and over again into forgiveness and acceptance, um and and allowing that to come forth and back and forth and swirling around as it's going to in the murky waters that is healing. And I call it swamping. One of the things that I call swamping, and it's something that I use in my programs, and that's because that's what it felt like. A mucky swamp, where you're in water, but you can't even swim. It's so thick and it's mucky, and it doesn't feel good. But you know that you need to be there. And I remember um, allowing myself to, even during the funeral, I had an out of body experience. I was in so much grief, and I was wailing. I was just letting it all pour out of me, and I intuitively knew that I needed to do that. That if I tried to, there was no trying in those moments. And that was such an intense experience, but it taught me how to continue the road of healing in the depths that it required, so that when it was no longer quote unquote acceptable to wail, to flounder about, that I still allowed myself those moments. I set time apart every day to have moments, to grieve. If something happened, because I went back to work, I had no bereavement. I was actually back to work before the funeral even took place. And I remember going into the office. I was working retail at the time, and I, as a side job, and I remember going into the office and just silently screaming, screaming as loud as I could silently, just to move that energy through. And that's the part of the process that scares us. We don't understand it, and we don't see it. And that's that's the key, is allowing yourself to fall and lean into that, as terrifying as it is, because that's the depth and the level of what it is that needs to be processed and felt through.
Oh, as you were speaking, I had this image of, this, uh, not just you, but so many of us screaming in the silence. And when you go through so much pain, you feel almost that your pain is not important, but it matters. Or pain matters, and you're a great example of it. I mean, you are what you're doing today in your life, even regardless. I hope I can mention it, but you mentioned to me that you also are overcoming some autoimmune diseases.
Yes.
I would like you to speak a little bit about your attitude toward that. Like, the mind is unstoppable, yes, but the body isn't.
Yes. Yeah.
And yeah, if you can just share your thoughts on for others who might be struggling with autoimmune diseases and trying to make a schedule, trying to deliver, but the body giving up sometimes.
Absolutely. So with our body, of course, is being in tune with our body and what it is that it needs. And for me, I can do all the things right, you know, and you change the diet, you do this, that, and the other, and then it's still there. And then you find yourself questioning. I found myself questioning, right? Well, then why is this still happening, right? Because if I'm the ultimate creator of my life, and if I'm capable of healing, and I'm doing all of the things, then why wouldn't I be experiencing this release? And I also had this attitude, of course, in the very beginning. I'm a warrior. I'm a fighter, right? That's my response to trauma. But I realized that in trying to fight my body and trying to force it to be what it could no longer be, I was just hurting myself. And so I have SLE lupus, I have Parkinson's, I have tremors, I have rheumatoid arthritis, I have fibromyalgia, I have Crohn's, I have, and then seizures, migraines, right? All of this slew of things that go with that. And the reason I say that is because each one has their own language. They speak to through my body in certain ways, and they have certain needs. In my journey I've been on this journey. It started with SLE lupus in my early 20s, and really even at that point I could trace it all the way back to at least about 13 years old, and some things all the way back to being 2 years old. Like we would go shopping and I would be crying and because my legs were hurting, because my body was hurting, things that I shouldn't have been experiencing, quote unquote. And I truly believe that one day they'll be able to prove that some of these disease processes were already present and, you know, running in my life. And so, but what I realized is that they are my lovers. They are not my enemies. Each one is a very important messenger in my life that is showing me where my boundaries need to be, where I can exceedingly soar, and where I can't, because I can't do it all physically, and that it doesn't need to be done physically. There's so much that can be done on an energetic and frequency level, right? So it's all part of the journey to me. And the moment that I stopped seeing each disease process as an enemy and started seeing it as a friend and a lover, the moment that I started to understand what it is that it needed from me and how I could support the relationship between myself and this other this part of my body, this part of the living process. The other part of acceptance is that disease has a place. There is nothing in existence that doesn't have a place. Our physical bodies deteriorate. They cannot stay quote unquote perfect forever through a lifetime. And I know that the moment that I think, you know, the moment that they try to, you know, step back, the moment as guides, they step back and say, okay, let's see how you do. I fail every single time, because without their messages, I truly don't understand when and how to stop, when and how to know that enough is enough. And so it's a very intimate, deep relationship and a deep dive for those of you that have autoimmunes, and which most of you, you know, probably do. And beyond autoimmunes, even with depression, anxiety, complex PTSD, all of those things. It's a matter of knowing that the tools that you are being encouraged to use ultimately do the work. It's important to understand that you keep doing the work. All the processes and all the steps that are suggested to you, or that you read about, or that your coach, your counselor, your mentor, whoever it may be, suggests to you, keep doing the work. Even if it doesn't feel like it's helping even if it doesn't feel like it's really doing much of anything at all, because it is. And things take time. And maybe I want to say, I feel like it's important to say that maybe you might be saying, look, I've been here for decades even, right? I feel like I felt this way my whole life. And I want to say to you that I didn't want to be in this life ever until I was 40. Until I was 40 years old, you know, and I've worked with many women that are 50, 60, 70, even 83 years old. That's the oldest client that I've had that said that to that point, she never wanted to really be in this world. And so, but then she had her moment. And her last few years were the best years of her life. And they all but made up for all the struggle. And so know that you're never alone, even though I know that it feels like it. One thing I really love to say is this: we're blinded by our own light. And when we're blinded, everything appears to be complete darkness. Everything appears to feel and look black and dark. And so, but everybody that's watching you, everybody on the outside is inspired by you and motivated by you, and they see you shining. So take those words when people tell you those things, and take them and let them be the hug that they're meant to be. And if you're not one that hears those words and you're the one that's always giving them, know that that is your own medicine, and you're asking yourself to accept that from your own self, that you are that light, that you are destined for greatness, and that you're living that greatness out in every moment.
There is so much wisdom and golden nuggets you're throwing on our audience, and I can see and feel the international bestseller author inside of you as you are talking, and that our light sometimes blinds us. It's really powerful. Yeah. And so, could we talk about conditioning? All that which keeps us in box. You already shared many things about how to break it out of the box, but for those who are entrepreneurs and they feel like, oh, just what other people will think, and could you talk a little about some advices, things to break the conditioning, to break the fears around judgments and being excluded from the tribe?
Yeah, because that's, a legitimate fear, and that's the oldest part of ourselves, is that part that wants to keep us safe and within that conformity, in the box with everybody else. And but it's what I like to call your muchness, and that's all of the things that I have been said to you were too much, and it's the things that have kind of put you outside of the box. You tried to peek outside of the box with that little self-sabotage, right? You tried to peek out, and then you got that confirmed that the world's not ready for me yet, and you went right back into the box, right? It's kind of like how I like to say it. So there's a lot of different things that you can do here. One of them is when we bring in facing some small fear every single day as a part of our mindfulness exercises, as a part of our everyday life, then our brain doesn't have that part of our brain doesn't need to send those signals out when it's not a time for it to, because it, like everything else, if we separate everything into its own sentient being, its own energy, its own vibration, everything is only asking to be seen and heard and understood and honored. So when we create time readily for that part of our brain to experience fear in some way, and also to realize that whatever it is that it's afraid of is actually something that's okay, then it doesn't sabotage us so much. The other part is a lot of the things that we try to do as entrepreneurs is we all know this word niching down. We all know this word, this phrase to niche down. Because of our experiences and because of those muchnesses not being accepted, we tend to fall into this trap of actually trying to niche down, and in the process of doing that, we're slowly actually cutting off all the access to all of our parts. So it's in the equivalent of cutting a finger off. It's the equivalent of cutting something off from ourselves. So that's the whole reason I created multi-dimensional niche integration. Is I don't want no one should be cutting any part of themselves off. If we look at a whole, if we look at your life as a whole, every skill, every strength, every passion that you have, and we pull those into a flow, into a roadmap that we understand, you become the niche, and really because you're stepping into your own individual identity, and you cannot be anything but that. And because it's all fueled by your many passions and your all of your wisdom, it all but eradicates imposter syndrome, burnout, and doubt, and all of those things, because we begin to confirm to ourselves that who we are and what we know really is for a purpose, and that people do care and want to be a part of that purpose. And one by one, people begin to come and tell you, oh my God, you just changed my life. Or, oh my God, that thing that you said was just, it's sunk so deep in me that I know that I'm never going to be the same again, right? And it's important to create yourself a brag journal, a confirmation journal, so that you can begin to use that as your evidence. No longer use the evidence of how many times you've been hurt. No longer use the evidence of all the times that it wasn't safe. Begin to use and create the evidence that it is safe, and you slowly begin to change that tide around. And the other thing is, there's biohacking. There's using your body mindfully into that advantage. So using your breath, doing breath work, meditating, and using that confirmation bias, and to help support yourself. And there's even subconscious programming, which is not something that I will show or tell how to do, because it's a process you don't do by yourself. However, it is something that's possible. But those things help us be able to overcome the fear, and at the end of the day, that intense fear is from the situation from before. That intense fear is not actually because of what you're trying to do in the now moment most of the time. And the other thing is, lose your judgment. It doesn't matter what it is that your brain says, what story it makes up about a feeling or an emotion. Feel it through, sit with it, lean into it, process it through, and lose the judgment about what it means, because it doesn't mean anything about you. It doesn't mean anything about you. It's just simply a story that needs to be told. So tell it, embrace it, accept it, write it down, feel it through, and then let it in. As it releases, you are no longer holding it hostage, because actually you are the one that's holding it hostage.
Like having your own prison. And
Yes.
having all those little parts of us prisoned in little jail rooms.
Yes.
Once a while, being like, one of them gets triggered and they're like, let me out. and you try to go back instead of like, okay, what happened? What's going
Yeah,
on?
absolutely.
Knowing that he will come back.
Yeah.
But it sounds funny, but it's a really hard work, just like you said.
It's very hard work.
Very big.
And ultimately, less than 5% of the population
Mhm.
is able to do it. But what I know is that if you're listening to this out now, right now, that you're part of that 5%.
But then you have also those like multimillionaires, billionaires who are depressive and suicidal. Like there are some people who have kind of financial wealth, because when you said 1%, it made me think about the billionaires. Is that what you related to, or what was your reference?
No, there's a lot of studies, and I would be happy to actually even send you stuff post that we could put in the comments, but there are a lot of studies about the percentage of people that are able to do long-term conscious mindful dives and digging into and processing of the things that it is that we've experienced and that we've gone through, and to understand ourselves and humanity on that deep of a level is it's not it's because it is difficult and it is hard. It's something that most people it's not always this is not a conscious choice. This is subconsciously, but most people, a lot of people never really come to that rank, that point of being able to make the conscious decision. So where it comes from being we hear the word a lot of victim, of being a victim, and then stepping into healing. There's a cusp, there's a moment, and most of the population does not get through the addictions that come post-trauma. They don't get through the stories that our brain puts around it. We don't get past or through the chemicals that and the neurotransmissions that come with those stories and how our brain physically alters itself. There are so many factors. And the reason I said that if you're here listening and that you're in this percentage is because otherwise you would not be here listening to this podcast, nor would you have listened to the last one that you listened to about the same thing, nor the one before and the one before, right? Because most of us, for whatever reason, don't get through the fog enough to even realize that there is another way and another choice that's available.
It just makes me think like to do this question, if you had mentors, or are you actually channeling the wisdom, or
I
can talk
have,
about it.
yeah, I am definitely absolutely 100% a channel, and I have never gone to, let's see, I had counseling with one counselor once a week, probably 5 times after the and after everything happened 13 years ago. And other than that, I have done this work myself. And have I listened to I really don't actually listen to podcasts. I don't I have different certifications, so I've done that and I've experienced things in that way. But I very purposely do not do a lot of coaching or mentoring because it I find when I do, as one thing that I do very much is that, you know, I am on the spectrum, and so I mirror. And so I absolutely will mirror what somebody is telling me is the right or wrong thing. And when I've done that in my life, the moments that I have, it just absolutely takes away. I lose connection with myself in that way. And so I made the decision, you know, probably 20 years ago to just move forward for myself. Do I pick up pieces and nuggets from those in my life and those that I work with? You know, absolutely I do. But one thing that's always been said to me my whole entire life is that I am otherworldly in the sense of knowing things that are complicated and that other people don't necessarily, you know, consider. And so I think that my mind does work in its own beautiful, unique way. And I do my best to not muddy that. That's a hard answer. It's a hard question to answer. and I hope that I did.
And you what? And you love that you answer? That's what you said at the. Thank you. Oh, well, it was perfect and perfect answer. And you're so generous, like, speaker and guest, um, and I love that you listen to your intuition, because I feel like nowadays with the social media, and we live in different civilizations that, you know, our grandmothers, maybe it's not about comparing, but a little bit I think you have to stay really grounded and isolate yourself consciously.
Yeah. Yes.
Because there is many people want to impact it. And but where I was going is burnout. Before we leave, I want to talk about burnout. Oh my god. When you mentioned this word burnout, I was like, okay, that can be a last question. um and I will add all those links you mentioned about people who are healing, because that's very interesting. I had no idea that there is research on that, how many people actually do the work. And I was so surprised with the low number, like 1%.
5%.
5%.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, you know, so much of that is economically, right? With so many people being under the poverty line, with without the ability to receive any care or help with medications to help balance out those transmitters and chemicals, and you know, like a lot of it has to do with all of that. So it's like a big picture view of just mental wellness, just wellness in general, but specific. So yeah, awesome stuff. And then burnout. What's your question about
Yes.
burnout?
What would you say to someone who, you know, maybe started a few businesses, or they just forgot why they're doing, you know, maybe somebody betrayed them, somebody stole their money, somebody stole their idea, and they feel like, fucking shit, man. I'm not doing this anymore. You know, I had those moments, and I wish I met you before, so I would be like, you know, but everything is a perfect timing, I guess. I just
Yeah.
needed to grieve for a year.
Yeah, and it's tough out there, right? So much. I think so many of us are working to create these ecosystems that are built, you know, in a circular fashion where there is no top down you know, leadership. It's across the board, and collaboration over competition is something we hear all the time. And they're beautiful concepts, and are they the concepts of the future that we're bringing and birthing in the now moment? Absolutely. But there are going to be the experiences that you need to experience as an entrepreneur, if your goal is to have an empire, to have legacy, to have impact, if you want to, ultimately have 10 successful multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar companies and have hundreds of thousands of employees, and that you're helping, lift others up through the ability to give them a place to use their skills, that you're paying them well for it and all of those things. At the end of the day, just like life, there's so many angles and nuances that you need to understand. And to understand them, well, we have to go through them. The way is through. There is no way around, right? And so it's no, different than processing anything else. I think that, you have the time of assessment, feel your feelings, journal, meditate, have good self-care practices and all of those types of things, and eventually have to, come to the place, just as if in any failed relationship, where you open your heart to be vulnerable, and put yourself out there again, and it can be exhausting, and it can be very tiring. And even myself right now, as we speak, I have somebody that is that has picked up on the truth of the my system of not trying to niche down, but embracing, so the multidimensional niche integration, and they're in my circle. And so the other thing is so much of what our belief systems are and what we think that means. So to me, and we've all heard mimicry is the highest form of flattery, right? And at the end of the day, isn't it true? And I had to ask myself this question: isn't that what I want? Don't I believe in this system that I helped birth so much that I want it to go worldwide? Absolutely. And don't I want other people to understand it and to practice it and to help support others, not have to go through the pain of trying to niche down and cutting off, absolutely. So at the end of the day, what I want is what is happening. And I have to pivot how I see that. And would I have chose this person, quote unquote, doesn't matter if I would have or not, or if I think that I would have, because they're doing it. And so I can embrace that as something that I don't want to change. And I can encourage this person. I can embrace this person and reach out and say, look, I noticed that you're doing something very similar than I do. This is what I want to share, about this process, and maybe it will help your process be easier. Because at the end of the day, isn't that what it is that we're, wanting to do? And so I think there are just the ability to be able to ask ourselves tough questions, and wrap our brain around the situation, however it is, whatever story it is that you need to tell and believe. Create the story, embrace the story, and allow it to unfold,
Mm.
and not fighting these things. So much of burnout actually doesn't come from what we're doing, it comes from what we're resisting. And those resistances are and can be seen as a sign, as a message, right, of something that is slowing us down, that we can spend a little bit of time getting curious with. Curiosity is such an important thing. And this is the ultimate thing, too. When I put the I in responsibility, it puts everything in my hand to be the one to change it. It puts every part of the situation into my possession to be able to change it and be the change that it is that I want to see. So even if I have the, oh my God, and I want to blame other people, and it's fine to place blame. If that's what you need to get through part of the process. But as soon as you've done that, look, and is there even a reason to blame? Is there anybody to blame? Is there even right or wrong? Is there good and bad, right? Like even ultimately, is it all not unfolding and to create this perfect tapestry in our lives? Do you believe everything that you've been through has brought you to where you are perfectly? And if you do, then use that belief to help you through the hard times of, not to bypass your feelings or your thoughts. That's why you feel them and process them through. But you also keep that higher thought of, I may not understand this right now, but if I create the story to go around it, then I can own it. I can begin to see that story unfold because I have put myself in the position of being the creator or the co-creator of my experience.
I love this, your wisdom and ideas on rewriting the story of like getting that power back. And I also want to say something what playing with those different archetypes in us. Like there is a victim and there is the superhero. The superhero is going to say, I love this person, right? But then like I always struggle to have compassion toward myself because as a child I didn't get that from my caregiver. So it was, me being really rough toward myself and being nice to others, but to myself,
Yes.
being really raw and very critical, like a mirroring you mentioned before, the mirroring, that's a kind of mirror that inside out. I know you want to say something on that. I feel
I was going to say one thing that you can, plant a seed, plant a plant from a seed. And if you need to at first, name that plant the name of somebody that you absolutely love and adore. But then and talk to that plant, water that plant, treat that plant as if you're treating it, as if it's this other person, but eventually begin to also recognize that there's no separation between you, the plant, and this other person, and slowly begin to replace that name with your own name. Right.
the real name of the person who hurt us.
Yes.
Wow. Is that an exercise you invented? Never heard that exercise.
Possibly. I do invent a lot. I have a whole entire glossary of words and terms, and I am very innovative and creative in that way. That is my superpower, and so it's very possible. I will say yes, that I've never heard it be practiced elsewhere.
Yeah, I want to celebrate that part of you who chooses to, be in solitude and kind of channel this information because, sometimes it's like so much pressure to listen to this, to learn more things, and it's not really that when you find out that we weren't born just to like we existed before, and there is the wisdom when we allow ourselves to be alone, that wisdom comes up, and it's something that like, oh my God, I would never think about it. Like, no, because of you think small. Yeah. Because you're trying to, yeah.
We think of growing a lot or expanding, right, as outward, but it's not. The truth is that it's deep. It's not wide, it's deep. It's being able, we really start from that 30,000 foot view, and that deep dive is going down into the macro and the micro and the super micro of how we all correlate to one another, how everything, you know, affects everything else, the ripple effect, the butterfly effect, if you will. And it really is taking that. It's, you know, it's in the details. It's all in the details.
Mm. Ladies and gentlemen, Jenny Ford. Here appears as a Jenny Ford. One more time. Is this okay? I will keep the Jenny Ford anyway.
Yeah,
I
it's
will
fine.
I would put all the links for you all to connect with Jenny on LinkedIn. That's my favorite word in English. LinkedIn. There's so many out there. But it was a pleasure to have you. It is. Is there anything you lastly want to share? Talk about your courses, your upcoming, everything.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the shameless plug that I will do shamelessly. Thank you so much first, before I forget, for having me on as as your guest. And it's been an amazing conversation. And thank you for being you and for your own wisdom, drawing out the articulation of wisdom through me, right? And so thank you for your presence. And for everyone out there, you can find me on LinkedIn, and I have a link tree, and that's going to be one of the links that you're going to get. And you can look across the link tree if you want to know more about my muchness merchandise, if you want to know more about the magazine Chroma, if you want to know more about the L.A.B.E.L Academy, how I can support you with branding. Just simply find a channel and reach out to me, and I will be glad to meet with you. And also, if you want to collaborate and see if we can come together and expand into some sort of collaboration, I am also very much so open to that. So thank you very much for this opportunity to share time and space with you all today.
It felt really big and expensive, so I invite that energy more and more and more. I hope you enjoyed this interview, and please subscribe my YouTube channel. For you, it's a one click. For me, it means the possibility to continue creating impact in the world with those videos. Thank you, and see you soon.